Today is World Parkinson's Day, a day that honors Dr. James Parkinson, the physician who first described this condition back in 1817, and a day that brings awareness to millions of people around the world living with Parkinson's. For many people, the word Parkinson's immediately brings one image to mind: a tremor, a shaking hand, a visible movement. But the truth is, the story often begins long before that. Sometimes it begins in silence, a change in smell, a shift in balance, a slower movement, a body that just, it no longer responds the way it used to. And behind every diagnosis is a deeper human story, a person, a family, a journey filled with uncertainty, fear, adaptation, and hope. Tonight, we're going to have an honest conversation about the hidden side of Parkinson's, the early warning signs you should look for, the nervous system, the quality of life, and most importantly, the message of hope symbolized by the red tulip. Because awareness is the first step, and hope is always part of the story. So let's get into it.
Hi, everyone. It's Cameron, and today I'm here with Dr. Chris Cormier. Today is Parkinson's Awareness Day, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hello,
Hey,
Dr.
Cameron.
Cormier.
How's it going?
So let's start off with the symbol of Parkinson's awareness is a red tulip, often the symbol of hope. What does hope mean for someone living with Parkinson's today?
So, disorders or diseases like Parkinson's don't just start overnight.
Yeah.
They start early on in somebody's life sometimes, and if issues are not taken care of properly in the human body for a long enough period of time, we start to see conditions like Parkinson's start to come up. So the hope would be that people start to realize that they need to be aware of everything they're doing, of their body in general. And when things are not right, don't just sweep it under the rug and say, oh yeah, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And wait for big things like this to come.
I think a lot of people immediately think for Parkinson's, it's a lot of shaking and tremors. But what is a darker, less visible side of Parkinson's that families often experience?
This particular disorder really affects something called dopamine, and that's your happy hormone in your body. So you can see people with progressive types of Parkinson's disease where they lose their happy and they really can't have that happy emotion. You can imagine, I think we kind of take for granted the happy emotion that we get because today's world is so dopamine filled. When you think of cell phones and instant gratification and just, all these different things that are making our bodies continuously produce dopamine. So when you take that happy hormone away from people, it really leads to a life that's very emotionless, I guess I should say.
A lot of people don't realize that symptoms, like you kind of talked about, begin long before the tremors. What are some of the early warning signs that people often miss?
It could start with just a weakness, right? It could start with just one little thing, maybe tremoring just a little bit, right, in your body. It could start with some pain that you have that you don't address properly. And if you don't address these things, they can manifest into bigger and bigger things. It's like snowballs. You want to think of it in the body. The longer you don't take care of a snowball that's happening, it'll turn into bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over time.
Parkinson's is also often described as a movement disorder. From your perspective, how deeply is it that the nervous system is involved?
Well, keep in mind, like from a movement perspective, I think people don't really take into account anything in their bodies in general until something gets bad. It could be maybe your digestion. When it gets off, you don't think about it until something's off, right? Your movement's the same way. Like, I'm sitting on this couch. If I just jump up and stand up and walk and run and all the things I want to do, I'm not going to really notice anything or think about maybe some subtle weaknesses that I might have. Most people don't pay attention to those. I'm kind of on this side. I like paying attention to those things, but I want you to think of a movement side, right? Movement's not happening accidentally. Your brain is your power company, and it sends out power to all these muscle cells and bone cells and skin cells. They're all involved in just a simple kicking your leg out. Is the brain on this side sending light energy in through a nerve in my lower back called the L2 nerve that provides power to the quadricep muscle kicking my leg out. And you can imagine just taking one step is involving so many different nerves, providing power to all these different things, muscle groups in your body, bones. And if you lose some of those, then you start to develop these weaknesses, and then the more progressive that becomes, the more you start to lose more movement in the body, and things like Parkinson's and everything can start to manifest itself.
Balance and falls can become one of the most frightening parts of this journey. How important is early intervention about movement and posture?
It's massive. And again, awareness is what we're trying to create with people. Awareness in the human body. I think most people, their cars, for instance, if you go to a gas station and you leave the gas station and your car is running fine before you go to the gas station, and your car starts to sputter after you leave there, most people are going to pay attention to their cars and be like, oh my goodness, it's the gas. I'm not going back to that gas station. I'm going to use some gas treatment, whatever they're going to do, right? But when it comes to the human body, I think people just make excuses. And they're like, oh yeah, today my right leg's weak, but it's no big deal. I mean, it happens sometimes. That's just me. Or yeah, I'm having a little more trouble standing up, but it should go away. It's going to pass, right? It's going to be okay. Or yeah, I saw a doctor about it, and yeah, he didn't help much, but he said it's going to be fine, right? So a lot of these things that your body starts to have problems with, that are like dents and scrapes in your car and problems with your motor. And instead of actually, checking under the hood and checking out and going to somebody who's going to tend to the body properly and keep it healing like it's supposed to, your body's supposed to heal itself. That's called self-healing. Keep it healing at a maximum. Most people just kind of let their self-healing in their bodies just gradually decline and decline and decline till they end up with more conditions like Parkinson's.
To go with your point, how often do you see people just adapting to these symptoms instead of actually investigating them?
All the time. And in fact, I'll tell you this, some people do go the investigation route. But just like the investigation, let's say you're investigating a crime scene, if you're not investigating the right things, you may never figure out who did the crime. And that's how the body is. There's some hidden things that people don't think about. I think most people don't even know about the brain's connection to all the trillions of cells. They don't even think about that as being a part of any type of disease, because nobody's actually out there checking it regularly for people. But people are getting their teeth checked, right? But they're not getting their nerves checked. And I think this type of neurological disorder, Parkinson's, it is really, really important to make nerve awareness for people. Get your nerves checked. Find somebody who actually does stuff like this. That's what we do at the Nerve Health Institute. That's why we're the Nerve Health Institute. We want to make sure that this thing is connected as possible to all your cells for the longevity, for the longest you're here on planet Earth. And the more disconnects that start to happen between your brain and cells, the more problems that can happen.
Is there hope for patients improving their quality of life even after the diagnosis?
Yes, there absolutely is. We're able to help people that are sometimes very progressed. The ones for us the most challenging are the ones where they, and I want you to think about this, dopamine in the body, right? Your body has all these production centers. The popular one is a substantia nigra in the brain. It's part of the brain that actually produces dopamine, but there's research that shows like the intestines produce dopamine, the liver produces dopamine. I think a lot more in the body produces dopamine that we're realizing. But instead of actually stimulating the connection between the brain and those parts of your body that produce dopamine to restore the power back, because you should produce dopamine on demand. It should be something that, as you want dopamine, your body should produce it on demand through these production centers. Instead of actually getting those production centers to get more active again and get their power supply, most people eventually get to where the dopamine's so low that they go the medical conventional side and they just start to give them an L-Dopa, like a dopamine synthetic pill that they're going to take, and the body, those production centers that were already lazy, not working properly, just get even lazier. And the body's like, well, I really don't have to produce any more dopamine because I'm getting this extra dopamine. So the more people are on and the higher dosages of dopamine people take, sometimes it's harder to try to get the body to reverse some of these things. Those would be the harder cases, but there's plenty along the way where maybe they start with just a tremor, or they start with some walking, they're having trouble with shuffling gait, or that's even more advanced. They could just start with a weakness. I constantly think about all the cases we help with all the aches and pains and the problems where maybe a limb starts to get weak, or they don't even realize that if they didn't get those properly taken care of. I'd like to know how many thousands and thousands of cases we've seen that have ultimately, if we wouldn't have got that proper care early on, might have turned into something like a Parkinson's.
100%. We've seen a lot of public figures, including Muhammad Ali, Michael J. Fox, live publicly with Parkinson's. For people like that, is it ever truly too late? Is there a stage that's too advanced? Even if the goal may not be reversal, but just improving quality of life.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, the ones that get too dependent on the dopamine pills that they're given, those are the ones that get harder sometimes. And I'll tell you this from my perspective. My wife's dad, my father-in-law, live 2.5 hours away, and wasn't able to come here. They kind of grew up more conventional, and I think they would have been open to doing more treatment here if they had been closer. But we watched him go through being this smile, happy-go-lucky type guy, moving around, doing everything he wanted to do, playing golf, all the things he wanted to do, and then all of a sudden started to develop some conditions with or some symptoms with Parkinson's, and eventually got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and eventually went to where he wasn't happy anymore. He could barely move around. My mother-in-law did such a great job taking care of him, but we literally watched him progress to where he ended up dying from this particular condition. So it's near and dear to my heart. I mean, he was a wonderful man, and it's something that I think with the proper intervention, so much is possible because our bodies have this innate ability to heal themselves. So when you do the right things, the body is capable of reversing things on its own. And there are certain limits with this condition, though. Once it gets to a certain point, we can definitely help in so many facets, but we may not be able to reverse some of the things that have already happened.
On this World's Parkinson's Day, is there any message of hope that you want to leave with people tonight?
Yes, the nervous system. Remember, when it comes to diseases like Parkinson's, it is a problem in your nervous system, right? Your brain's your biggest nerve in your body. And I can't tell people enough, the nervous system is the most important system in the entire body, by far, in my opinion. And it really needs nurturing and care and effort. So we at the Nerve Health Institute have the best of resources available to man to help with the nervous system. And we've been blessed to help thousands and thousands of people with so many different maladies, including Parkinson's. And beyond that, we also have Body Chargers, which is an at-home platform to be able to help people 24/7. So there's so many resources within that platform, our Body Chargers platform, to be able to help people at home, even if they can't come to the clinic. So the hope is just finding the right resources. And I feel like that's what we have here between all of our platforms of helping people, especially Nerve Health Institute and Body Chargers.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Cormier. That does conclude our talk for today.
If this podcast spoke to you, or if you feel like you have family members or friends that have these types of conditions that could benefit from this particular technology, then all you need to do is become a Body Chargers member or tell them about Body Chargers. Remember, it's our community that I created to help people at home with the best technologies in the world to be able to help you to self-heal your body at home and maximize your self-healing. So go to Body Chargers, become a member. That's the easiest way to get this done. And we look forward to serving you and your family. Also, if you want a higher level of care, we have the Nerve Health Institute you can always come to. That's our clinic where we have higher level services here to be able to help you. So I hope you enjoy, and we look forward to serving you and your family, and look forward to our next podcast.